Hi, I'm Stephanie and I'm from the ADHD Advocate, and we are now in week 3, still in week 3 of our ADHD Awareness Month, and we are doing ADHD at work this week. So today, this is a quick live around reasonable adjustments and ADHD. So basically, under the Equality Act, ADHD is anyone with a disability is able to, one, have protection in terms of disability discrimination, but also we've got our employers have got to provide reasonable adjustments for us so that we can access our work in the same way as neurotypicals. So there's a duty to provide reasonable adjustments. Now, the thing is, I mean, it's great. Reasonable adjustments include things like ADHD coaching, also ADHD awareness training for the workplace. So there are things like that, but then also it could be as simple as maybe you need your own room to make calls to people, because perhaps when you've got ADHD, you can be a little bit RSD, rejection sensitive, don't want your colleagues kind of listening to you when you're making calls, and you may find it easier if you have a conference room to yourself to make your calls, for instance. It's also, reasonable adjustments may include things like working from home some days, so the kind of flexible working arrangements, that's also a reasonable adjustment, and also things like assistive kind of technologies, maybe using things like dragon dictation, Grammarly. So it's quite wide, really, these reasonable adjustments. Now, unfortunately, in coaching, we have seen some employers giving reasonable adjustments that aren't very effective. In fact, these adjustments get in the way of our ADHD, and so not effective whatsoever. So it's really important that employers understand that no two ADHDs are the same, and that they listen to what it is that we need, because if we're not getting what we need, definitely it can make our jobs even more difficult. What I've seen a lot in coaching is that some of the employees, in terms of reasonable adjustments, they might be given, they're taken away from parts of their role that they really thrive in. It could be, usually it's the kind of front-facing, client-facing stuff that might get taken away from them, and only to be given kind of more admin, right? Or like things that are very challenging for ADHDers, things that don't ignite us, don't inspire us, and things we're not authentically interested in. And that's when things tend to get worse in the workplace, because the employers might not be listening to what we actually need, and they're giving us maybe more admin to work with, or they might be putting into place more meetings. So I've seen this a lot with my doctors with ADHD. They're kind of required to check in with, say, their supervisors, but at very inopportune times. So times where they've had to maybe leave a patient, and that's going to obviously make them feel really anxious, or maybe they're writing a report or something, and then they've got to go off to a meeting to check in, and they're just going to be, it's going to break their hyperfocus, and then it's going to be really difficult for them to go back and finish that report. So it can be really difficult and very opposite effect of actually achieving the goal, which is to make it easier for ADHDers to access work. What we find in coaching as well, coaching is fantastic as an adjustment, but it's also a precursor actually to working out what adjustments will actually be effective, because often we find the ADHD employee does not know what they need because they don't understand their ADHD. So through coaching, they get that lens, they're better able to identify what's getting in their way. We help them do that, and then strategize around, well, what is it that they actually need to remove that barrier? So it's through the coaching process that they can identify actually, the actual effective adjustments that will help remove those barriers. So yeah, kind of chicken before the egg situation, unfortunately. But it definitely helps for the coaching to be covered by the employer, and the employer being able to accommodate those adjustments kind of evolving and becoming more tailored to that individual. But it does require that ADHD lens. So in addition to the coaching, we've found that ADHD awareness training is also an adjustment that's actually necessary in order for the coaching to work, because we can equip our ADHD employees, entrepreneurs, with the strategies and structures to thrive, But often, particularly in the workplace, if there's not that understanding, if there's not that implementation of these strategies, like facilitating that implementation, then you find that the employees their attempts to be able to access their work is going to be frustrated. And also what we've seen, that lack of understanding of ADHD can cause the rejection sensitive dysphoria to trigger. And, the employee starts feeling hopeless. They start feeling as if nothing's going to change. And that's when we see employees exiting the workplace, which is not what we want, because so many of these ADHDers are very talented and make massive contributions to the workplace when they're in the right role, and the role is kind of designed to set them up for success. So definitely less admin, I would advise. So look, it's really important that ADHD lens is there. And so if you've got ADHD and you're in the workplace and you're struggling, I would definitely be approaching your employer for ADHD coaching and ADHD awareness training. And ideally, we would want, your employer to be able to maybe fit the role, adjust the role so that you're able to more leverage your strengths and not get stuck in the weeds of your weaknesses, right? Because we want to free you up to be able to operate in that unique, that area of unique brilliance that you have, which benefits not only the employee with ADHD, but the entire organization, because it can be a competitive advantage when you're able to leverage those strengths. So for more information, we actually did a webinar on this in ADHD Unlocked, and we'll provide the link to the membership community. But also, if you're interested in ADHD coaching, please do go to our website, www.theadhdadvocate.com. We can help, and we've also got a guide to understanding ADHD in the workplace, which we would very much encourage you to circulate to your employers, because the more they understand ADHD, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to thrive in the workplace. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow, where we will be answering questions about access to work and providing you with a little bit of instructions around how to submit your application and get you the help you need. Thanks for joining us.